It's Sunday, February 1st, 2026, and this is season 5, episode 4 of Two Guys on Politics, broadcast on the U.S. Arab Radio Network on WNZK AM 690 radio, as well as on YouTube at twoguysonpolitics.com. I'm co-host Ray Hanania with my fellow co-host, former Congressman Bill Lipinski, and the two of us are going to discuss in this video podcast series an array of topics that include ICE and the most recent killings, how it's become the focus of Illinois elections. And we're going to talk about some comments that Mayor Johnson made about how the ICE is restoring the post-Civil War attitudes. I was a little surprised by that, but maybe I shouldn't have been. Where they finally released those 3 million documents involving the Epstein Files, but it sounds like most of them have been so redacted you can't really get anything out of it. Is Trump isolating America by his confrontational attacks against NATO nations? Is that going to cause us harm? In Texas, this election is coming up in November, and a Democrat there has come out from behind and won a solidly red Texas state Senate seat, stunning the Republicans and suggesting that this might be the trend that we're going to see in the coming year in upcoming elections. The Republicans may lose control of the House as a result of a sweep of anti-Republican sentiment. And then we're going to end it with some talk about the U.S. tensions with Iran, what's happening there. And locally in High School District 230, I'll talk about how a motion to add Arabic language to the world language curriculum at the school district has created this controversy about why do we need Arabic and what's the purpose of it. It's been very ugly, Bill. Anyway, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about all of this. I'm Ray Hanania.
I'm Bill Lipinski, and this is Two Guys on Politics. And the next voice you hear will be that of my very good learned friend, Ray Hanania.
Bill Lipinski, thank you so much. Former congressman, former alderman, longtime observer, and involved in Chicagoland and U.S. politics for many years. It's always good to have your insight on all these topics. Our first one that we're going to talk about is the continued battle over ICE. It's almost like a civil war, isn't it, Bill? And people seem to be taking sides for the wrong reasons. You know, it's about politics, not crime, illegals, or maybe illegal action by some ICE agent shooting people. What do you make of all this, and how serious of a threat is this?
Well, first of all, I want to say that I am all for getting all the people that were allowed in the last 5 years, the illegal aliens out of the United States of America, those that have committed crimes after they got here, and those that simply have come here illegally. They should all be deported. That's my position. It was my position earlier. It's my position now. It was my position back when Joe Biden was leaving all of these people in. But the way the Trump administration has gone about removing these people, and the way, unfortunately, several people have been killed, it has turned most of the country against it when most of the country was for it. I don't really know how the Trump administration can now really do the job that they were supposed to be doing, because I think there is so much political pressure being put forward against ISIS movements that I think they're going to have to slow down considerably. And I don't think they will ever get the job done. And I think it is a terrible mistake, but I think Trump has brought it upon himself, unfortunately. That's my position, Raymond.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, On the one hand, it's gotten away from what the real issue is, which is securing our borders. I don't know. What's funny to me is, and I'm going to single out Mexican Americans because there are a lot of Mexican Americans coming from Mexico. If I go to Mexico illegally, they will throw me in jail. They'll beat the crap out of me. They'll accuse me of all kinds of stuff. And do you think anybody's going to stand up and defend my rights? No. I would have
No.
to beg the US government to come in and get me out of that Mexican jail. And I'm not targeting Mexicans, I'm just using that as an example. That's in every state and every country. And yet, the people that are leaving these countries to come to the US, their governments want them to go because maybe they're dissidents, maybe they're too poor, and they need, public support. So they want them to come to the US and they want to get away from their countries because their countries are, in many cases, oppressive. So they sneak into our country instead of doing it the right way. They don't want to wait. They want to get out of there right away. And that causes us a problem because we don't know who they are. This is the argument we've gotten away from that nobody talks about anymore. Nobody should enter this country illegally. And if they have, they should be accounted for. Now, you and I have talked about a compromise, but nobody else is talking about compromise. They're just talking about conflict and politics. And I think they're using it for the election.
Oh, I think there's no question about it. I think it's a very good issue for the Democrats at the present time because of the way the Trump people have handled this. The border people, the ICE people. Now, Trump has been very, very successful in closing down the border. We get almost no illegal aliens into this country any longer. But we have so many of them in here from the Biden years that we have to try to get rid of most of them, if not all of them. And I don't get some people, they want to say, well, it's only a misdemeanor that you came across the border. But misdemeanor, felony, you're illegal if you don't have the papers. If you came across the border with no papers, would not be accepted by the American government, you should be deported. I frankly don't believe we'll ever get around to those people anymore, Ray. I think the only people that will wind up being deported are the very serious criminals that have been allowed to come into this country. And I think that's a terrible mistake. But it's because of the Trump administration, the way they handle it. I know I'm repeating myself, but
Well,
it's very upsetting to me that at one time Trump had 80% of the people behind him on deporting all these illegal people. But the way things have gone, that support is gone. I think it's down to something like about 36%, which is disgusting. But Trump, you and I have discussed it. He's had many good ideas, many things that you and I both agree with. But the manner in which it has been handled,
right.
has just made a terrible mistake. And I'll tell you, it's amazing to me. I watched the other day him in the White House talking about healthcare, talking about vaccines, and having a number of people there with him. He was the nicest, sweetest, most understanding person I think I ever ran into. He has that ability. He has that type of personality if he would choose to use it. But that's the first time I ever saw him use it. I was really charmed by the guy, a guy who I can't stand most of the time, a man I have called reprehensible. But he could be a different person if he chose to be so. But I think he wants to pound his chest and be the strong man. And I think he's hurting this country very, very much.
Yeah, I think that Trump is having some cognitive problems the same way Biden did. And I think Trump has weaponized ICE beyond their mandate to target illegal aliens. He's turned them, in the past. Listen, President Obama did this without making a public presence of ICE in cities. He didn't send an army of ICE agents the way Trump does to cities. Trump is sending this visible ICE agent, declaring it in a political way provoking residents into the conflict being with ICE. What Obama did was he did what the ICE was supposed to do. He arrested more people under Obama. He deported more illegals under Obama than anybody has. Biden is the one that slowed things down, fearing that, Kamala Harris might not, that he might not win. And then when he was ousted, Kamala Harris wouldn't win. And I think it did bite him, because it did hurt him. But what Trump is doing is he's weaponized ICE. He sends them in, makes a big display of it, and that incites protesters to gather and fight them and confront the ICE agents. And it's that conflict between ICE and the protesters that's causing the problem. We never hear about who's targeted and who should be arrested until weeks after these protests happen and someone gets killed. Now, my basic line is I stick with the rule of law. I support ICE. I think we should deport illegals, but I think there's an attitude among some of the agents being provoked by Trump to have this uncaring attitude that if you stick your tongue out, you yell at, you whistle, you call somebody a name, they might shoot you. They get so mad that they get brought to the brink of using their weapon against you. And I think that's what's happened several times. That one woman who was in her car, she certainly should have been arrested for using her car to block
No
the ICE.
question about it.
Yeah, and her wife was out there taking pictures, running around among the ICE agents. They were chasing her. They were provoking the agents. She shouldn't have been shot. But I think that Trump has elevated it, and I think the protesters have elevated it to a point where emotions cannot be controlled. And I think it's very dangerous, but I blame both sides.
Well, I blame both sides too. And I want to say, I believe it is more difficult for a Republican administration to deport these people because of all these sanctuary cities and sanctuary states that we have. That brings the locals into conflict with the federal people. And you know as well as I do, these sanctuary places are all in Democratic controlled states or cities. That contributes very much to the situations that exist. And then you get people like the governor of Minnesota and the mayor of Minneapolis who, believe me, have used terrible language. All they've done is continue to throw gasoline on the fire.
Right.
It's disgusting to me that we all call ourselves Americans and we can have such a divergence of opinion on what is good for this country. Something has to be done, Ray. And I'm very serious. Somehow we've got to come together.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that like in Minnesota, the government there is provoking protesters to stand up to ICE. And I think Trump is trying to use this. He's targeting Democratic cities. I mean, he's made it real clear. He's politicized, the left has politicized it too, but Trump has stepped it up by politicizing the use of ICE, targeting Democratic areas, hoping he knows he's in trouble and the Republicans are in trouble in November. And he's doing whatever he can to make the Democrats look bad instead of doing everything he can to arrest illegals who are bad, who might be involved in crime, who might be involved in drugs. One of the sad things about these efforts is while Trump is willing to send ICE in a very visual way, like an army into a city, they were in Chicago, walking around Chicago streets, and it was hard to miss them. They weren't there being investigators to arrest a criminal. They were there to make a statement. And that's what Trump has done. And I think that hurts us and hurts the effort to arrest these illegals who are involved in crime and drugs. They should be arrested. We need to take them off the street. And it bothers me that because of all this confusion, a lot of them are getting away with what they're doing because the focus is on the protesters and the ICE agents. It's a bad situation.
Yes, it is.
And one last thing, you've seen how it's been used in politics. I was watching Raja Krishnamurthy has shifted from, hey, here's how to pronounce my name to, I'm going to do everything I can to stop those ICE Nazis. I'm not sure what language he's using, but that's the impression I get. We're going to stop ICE. We're going to stop Trump. But it's distracted from, I want to vote on a senator in Illinois to take Durbin's place who's going to do the most to help the people of Illinois address the problems that we have. But instead of talking about those issues, politics now is talking about ICE and how to stop the ICE agents, how to stop Trump. We're hearing nothing about what are you going to do to help seniors? What are you going to do to help healthcare? What are you going to do to help protect the American citizens in Illinois against criminals? And how are you going to get us money? What are you going to do? None of those questions are being answered.
No, and he now is, you know, now he's all for abolishing ICE because of his two main competitors in the race. That was their position.
Right,
Now he's taking that position also, and
right.
he says we're in a war. We have to decide if we're going to roll over or we're going to fight. And I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight. He says things, but there's nothing to back it up. I,
Right.
I I'm afraid he's going to be elected as our U.S. senator, and I'm very disappointed. I think he's going to win the Democratic primary because he has so much money, and I think he's also going to win the general election because the Republican Party in the state of Illinois is in such disarray. I don't know if they can. I think they may wind up losing another House seat, but that's a story for another day.
Well, I mean, it is impacting Illinois elections. And as we know, our Chicago mayor has even jumped into the fray, obviously, because they are a sanctuary city. And they have said that, I think he said something about how that this has restored the post-Civil War attitude that used to exist. And I'm thinking he means the racism and the hatred of African Americans. He's using this to gin up and take advantage of it for his own election. He's a very weak candidate. I'm not sure he's going to win the mayoral race when it comes up, and I think it's 2027. But I think that he's going to use this as much as he possibly can, and
Oh, I
he's going to
agree.
continue to do that.
Yeah, I think he's a racist, to be perfectly frank with you. Yeah, for him to say that what's going on now is their real goal is to return us to the days of slavery, Jim Crowism, segregation by housing. I,
Right.
I cannot believe someone that occupies the mayor's office in the city of Chicago can make such statements. I mean, they're not measured at all. I mean, it's like some rabble rouser out in the middle of the street trying to incite a riot. It is disgusting to me.
Yeah, and there are two kinds of racists. The one racist who uses it for political reasons, who calls everything racist, and then there's the racist who hates people.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's a more of a political
Oh,
racist.
yes,
He's
I
using
agree.
it as to divide the community, to use racism as a weapon. I don't think he hates white people or black people. I think this is a way to stay in office. He's weak, and a lot of people think that he's easily going to be thrown out of office.
Yep, I agree.
So now this brings us to the long forgotten Epstein files, which at one point was dominated the news almost 90% for months and months, and then forced President Trump and the Republican leadership to say, yeah, we're going to release those files. They delayed it for many months. They've held back. They've been redacting. Redacting means they take a black marker and cover up information so you never see it. They've been protecting I have this sense that why would you do that? You're protecting your friends. The president is protecting himself. He's protecting Melania, who's in there many times. We have no idea what they're talking about. And meanwhile, we've gotten away from the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, these young people who were sexually abused, who are now adults. And it's just a horrible story. But Trump, I think, has done a great job of denying public access to the American people about this. We're never going to know the truth. It's going to have to take until he's out of office that we're going to know what really happened with Epstein, because his agenda, in my opinion, is to protect himself. He doesn't care about anybody except himself.
Well, the only thing I'll say about that is that if there was something in the Epstein files that really would be harmful to Trump, why didn't the Biden people use that? They had all this information, and I'm sure they went through it with, in detail, trying to find out something about Trump. I don't think it's about him. I do think, though, it is people that he's close to, that he's friendly with, people with money, people with influence. He's trying to protect those people. And I think Joe Biden did it for the same reason. Many of the people that contributed heavily to him are involved in this, and he wanted to protect them. That's why I don't really think we will ever get the true story on the Epstein files. And Ray, they talk about having 3, 4, 5,000 pages of documents pertaining to this situation. What on earth? Why do they have so much? I don't understand
There,
it.
there are 3 million documents. But
Excuse
what's
me, I'm sorry.
interesting is that thousands and thousands of those documents are completely blacked out. So they'll release 2,000 documents that have nothing on them except black redaction on them. And you wonder, what the heck? Why? What does this have to do with national security? It has nothing to do with it, but I think you're right. Both sides, I think Jeffrey Epstein wasn't a Republican and he wasn't a Democrat. He was just somebody who curried favor using these young women with politicians and elected officials, regardless of their party. And I think you're right. Both parties are afraid of how it impacts them. And I think Trump is doing exactly what Biden did. We need an independent commission to really open these documents and look at it that was nonpartisan. I'm not sure we're ever going to get that, but there are a lot of people. This movement won't go away of these people that are upset that he was allowed to do this with the support of politicians and government. He couldn't do this if they didn't protect him. And I think that's part of the problem.
Well,
Um,
I hope you're right, but I don't think we'll ever really get to the bottom of the whole situation. But we'll see.
well, our country isn't at a point where we do reasoned and rational things
Oh,
anymore.
that's
Now
for
it's all
sure.
emotion. So you're right.
Absolutely.
I don't think we ever will. And one final topic for this segment, um, this NATO and the Ukraine and Putin. It seems like Trump fighting with NATO is undermining a critical defense of our system. This idea that we don't need NATO, it's really shocking to me that we believe that. Can you imagine if we didn't have NATO, where we would be? We'd be isolated in this world. NATO, they're risking more than the US, I think. We pay a lot into it, more than these other countries. They're smaller, we're much bigger. But when you combine all the European countries, they're almost equal to the United States. We've used them. They're the front line against the communists, the Russian communists, the Chinese communists. They're the ones that I mean, if I were Putin, I'd be sitting there making plans for taking over Denmark and Finland and Poland and Czechoslovakia. I'd be looking at retaking everything, saying, NATO is at its weakest point it's ever been. And the United States has proven that they won't stand up for international safety.
Well, I have, there's not much I can add to that. I just think that Trump has blown up, our alliance with all those European nations. I won't say he's blown it up completely, but he certainly seems like he's tried to blow them up completely. And we need those people. We can't fight the rest of the world by ourselves. We needed them as allies in the Second World War and the First World War. Listen, Churchill once said that you need the only thing worse than having allies is not having allies. And we should remember that. No matter what we have to put up with, no matter how much we have to contribute to the defense of Europe, it's still better to have them on our side and not be against us. And by the way, what's happening with Greenland? I haven't heard much about that in the last couple of weeks.
Isn't
We've
that
moved on.
isn't that a character of the Trump administration? He starts a fire and then he walks us away from it with another fire. We
Right.
can't focus on what's going on. It's almost like he had to back off of his bluster, about Greenland, threatening to take over and sanction. He was going to sanction these European countries that didn't go along with his takeover of Greenland. We are in such a mess. This is chaos. This is the worst thing that can happen to us. It's not that we're not right on a lot of these issues, but chaos that's uncontrollable, you have no idea what's going to happen next or what spark might create a conflict that we have no control over. Is it going to be something we're talking about today, or is it going to be something way out on the left that we don't even see because we're so busy wasting our time in such a terrible way with some of these issues? We're doing the wrong things the wrong way. We're addressing the issues that are important, but in a horrible way.
Yeah, and the Russians and the Chinese are just sitting back and waiting for the opportunity to strike the Ukraine or to strike at Taiwan because we're busy tilting at windmills on many different occasions. It's disgusting.
All right, Bill, let's take a break. And when we come back, we can continue some discussions about the Republican and Democrat midterm elections, what might happen there. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back right after these messages. And welcome back, everybody. This is Ray Hanania with Congressman Bill Lipinski here at Two Guys on Politics in our second segment. Bill, it was interesting. We're obviously in midterm elections, and traditionally in midterm elections, the whoever controls the White House usually loses the Congress, maybe loses control of the Senate. That's a threat to Trump and the Republicans. He has until November if trends follow the historical patterns. And we saw in Texas a state Senate race. There's a local state legislative race where a Democrat won an overwhelmingly Republican district. I think the guy's name is Taylor Raymond. And it was so bad that a few days ago, even Trump started sending messages to that district to vote for the Republican who lost by almost a 18% margin. Is this a sign, do you think, that Trump and the Republicans are in trouble, or is it an aberration? What do you think is
No,
happening?
I have thought for a long time that the Republicans were in serious trouble in the midterm elections. I have been convinced for several months that the Democrats are going to take control of the House of Representatives, which I think is a good thing, to be perfectly frank with you. Maybe it'll blunt some of the wild ideas that Trump has and the way he's goes about things. But now I'm beginning to think that it's possible that the Democrats will also control the U.S. Senate because the Democrats, they are on the offensive. They have the major media outlets in this country on their side.
Yes, they
They're
do.
talking about the people being murdered in Minneapolis. They're talking about how aggressive ICE is. Most American people are really opposed to that kind of stuff. But more important, even than those things, is that the economy. The economy is not good for the
Right.
average American citizen. Every time I go shopping, it seems like what I purchase cost an arm and a leg. You know, healthcare is going up. Trying to buy a home is going up. Groceries are going up. Heating costs are going up. It really hurts the average American citizen more than it hurts the people with a lot of money. People with a lot of money, they can handle it. There's no problem for them. But it's the average Joe and Jane are being hurt. And I think that that is also going to hurt the Republicans very much. And I have to say, in all honesty, most issues nowadays, I agree with the Republicans on. But the Democrats have the momentum. I believe that they are going to take definitely the House. They may take the Senate. I think it'll curb some of Trump's wild, whatever you want to call it, his wild accusations, his wild adventures, and calm that down. I hope that helps the country. I don't know if it'll help the country or not. I wrote a column talking about how divided we are,
Right.
how the left loves to call the right Gestapo, stormtroopers, fascist.
Right.
Right loves to call the left communist, Marxist, socialist. We have to bring the people in this country together. We cannot continue to be so divided. It makes us weak internally, and it makes us very weak externally. I think that the Russians and the Chinese are just licking their chops at how foolish we look in many different cases and how we are alienating so many people that have been our allies in the past. It's very disturbing to me. I tell you, I sent out to a number of people who I know my column, and it generally received good response. But there are several people that wrote back saying, I don't know what I'm talking about. The Republicans are terrible. The Democrats are right on every single issue, which we all know is not true. But the news media has such a significant influence on people in this country that I believe that that is hurting the Republicans very much. It is not bringing us together. I don't care who wins or who loses elections. What I want to see is us coming together as a nation once again.
Yeah, and I agree with, by the way, for our viewers and listeners, that Bill's column will be on the syndicate that I put together. Courageousthought.com is the website, courageousthought.com. It was Hanania.com, Bill, but so many people had a problem spelling Hanania. So I had to change the website. So it's now courageousthought.com. Hopefully, the public can spell courageous and thought a lot easier than they can pronounce spell Hanania.
Well,
But
the
Bill's
problem was most of them thought Hanania was spelled like an Italian would spell it.
without an H.
Yes, exactly.
Always. So your column will be there for our readers so they can go to courageousthought.com to read it. That'll be up later on today. I agree with you. Democracy is not about being a Democrat or Republican. It's about compromise and doing what's best, coming together, coming up with the best idea. There's no compromise today. Everything is extreme. Everything is Republicans want everything, Democrats want everything, and the middle is no longer doesn't exist anymore. There's no middle, which is the symbol of compromise. When you compromise, you take a little of one side, a little of the other side, and you figure out what's the best for the whole country, not just your Republican Party or Democratic Party. I agree with you. That is a major problem. I wanted to ask you about the Trump has been saying, if the Democrats take over the House, they're going to impeach me, which is true. I'm pretty sure. And I hope they do impeach him. But I'm really interested in what it would take to do. I know we've talked about this before, but what would it take to indict and convict him? That would go to the Senate. I think they need more than just a majority vote.
They need 2/3.
Now, that would be pretty hard to do.
Yeah, I don't think it's doable. I don't want to see him be impeached. Not that he perhaps doesn't deserve it, but you're never going to convict him in the Senate.
Right.
So why impeach him? All you're going to do is continue to drive people in this country further and further apart. So the House impeaches him, it goes to the Senate. The Senate might not even deal with it. And if they do deal with it, you can rest assured they are not going to convict him of anything whatsoever.
Well, the truth is that the Democrats today are no different than the Republicans.
All
They're
right.
just not in charge. If they were in charge, they'd be doing the exact same thing that Trump and the Republicans are doing, going off half-cocked and crazy on issues, not focusing on the middle. We see that with our candidates. There's no movement on the Democratic side, which is one reason I think Trump was reelected, to this term, was because the Democrats were in such a shamble. They had poor leadership. It was hard to determine what they were focused on. They were as extreme in one direction as the Republicans are extreme in the other direction. And that's our problem. But so I guess you're right. The ideal situation then maybe would be with the president that the Democrats take over the House, the Republicans, maybe the Democrats take control of the Senate, but maybe the Republicans hold control of the Senate. I'm not sure. That would create a situation where the only movement forward would be through compromise, right?
Absolutely. I want to mention I listen to a progressive Democratic talk show station here in Chicagoland.
Shame on you. No, I'm
Yeah, well,
joking.
you
I'm
know,
joking.
you have to know both sides, Ray.
I do. I appear
They
on
have
the WCPT sometimes, 820. I appear on there.
right. You're on that station sometimes?
Occasionally as a guest, yeah, with Mohammed Fahim. He's a host on
Oh,
Sunday mornings. He does a good program. He's pretty good, but sometimes it gets too far to the left. But go ahead.
well, they're probably their number one talk show host, Thursday or Friday,
Mhm.
said that there was no doubt in his mind that the goal of the Trump administration was to take care of the white people in this country and to make sure that the blacks, the Hispanics, women, and the gays got nothing whatsoever, and that they had to sort of control those people. If not, the white people were going to lose their country. Not only the white people, but white males. He said it was white males. Now, if that isn't some of the most inflammatory
Yeah.
language you could ever hear, I don't know what is. And he's supposed to be an American. He's supposed to be doing what's best for this country. Now,
Well, that
I don't know what happened or when it happened, but we certainly went off the rails.
Yeah, that's an example of what we were talking about, that the left is as bad as the right.
Oh, absolutely.
The left isn't any better than the right, and the right isn't any better than the left. They're both terrible. The Democrats and the Republicans are horrible. They're doing a bad job. They got bad leaders. The lack of leadership on the Democratic side is the reason why Trump won. But at the same time, that didn't justify Trump's win just because the Democrats were bad. Do you think that there's any hope that this next election might change that? I
For
mean, by
president?
tempering Trump, I don't think it just is enough just to say, okay, we put Trump in check. I don't think the Democrats are going to change. I think the Democrats are going to be just as bad as the Republicans because you're absolutely right. It's not white versus black. This is
No,
like party partisanship versus the other party partisanship, and they're exploiting blacks and gays and white people. Both sides are exploiting their base. They're pandering to their base. Nobody's addressing the issues. There's no good solution. Our economy is terrible. But what have the Democrats proposed to improve the economy? They haven't proposed anything. All they've done is complain. Raja Krishnamurthy, in my opinion, is a symbol of the problem with the Democratic Party. He's a nice guy. He's just not a good leader. He doesn't have any views about how to take us out of the depths of this abyss that we're in of conflict and rise us up so we can address the economy. Trump is interesting. He singles out eggs and gasoline, and he says, hey, gas prices are down, and I brought egg prices down. I'm sorry. Now I can drive to the grocery store in a very inexpensive way just so I can't buy anything because it's too expensive except eggs. That's not a good economy. He says he's reduced some of the prescriptions. Yeah, maybe two or three or four of them. He's brought them down, but they're hundreds of prescriptions. I saw my prescriptions go up hundreds of dollars. Fortunately, there are ways to get around that, but I have to work harder now to keep those prices down than I did before. The economy is horrible. Nobody's addressing it. Healthcare and insurance are horrible. Nobody's addressing it. Senior citizens, we have challenges. Nobody's addressing it. I think Trump sent money out. Did he? I don't know. Did you get any money from Trump? He's going to try to buy us off. He's sending
Oh,
money
yeah, I
through
got
the
nothing.
federal government.
I don't think you got anything either.
No, I think I did. I think I got
Is that right?
$2,250 from the federal government. I'm wondering, what did I get this for? I don't know where it came from.
I'll have to look for my check. I didn't get my check yet.
Yeah, well, it wasn't a check, it was a direct deposit. If you don't do deposit, you might have to wait for a check, but I think he
Okay.
sent money out because he thinks that throwing $2,000 at me is going to make a difference in my life. It doesn't make a difference. Maybe it pays two bills for a month, but but it doesn't help me answer any of the questions that we just talked about. It's horrible.
Yep, yep. You are absolutely correct. But Ray, let me tell you,
Yes,
next week's program, we have to find some things that are going right in this country that are positive
something
about
positive.
this country because we are entirely too negative, and that is not helping the country.
Isn't that a statement on where we are at?
It
That it's
certainly is.
hard to find a positive, good story that we can talk about and with pride and say, wow, what a great idea. Look at this legislation so and so has introduced. Instead, all we get is everything is corrupted by partisan politics. And it will take a lot of effort to find that.
And,
All right,
and I just want to get it off my chest because I had said to you, I didn't want
sure,
to talk about this because I didn't realize that
sure.
what had happened just the other day. I am so sick of Israel coming up with one excuse after another of
Yeah.
saying they're going after this leader, they're going after that leader. They wind up killing another 20, 25 people, a lot of children. I mean, it is disgusting what they are doing. Now, there are allies in the Middle East, and I always have said I have supported them. Where I tell you, I'm just about at the end of my rope because we're supposed to be having a ceasefire there, and they're saying they go after some guy. Well, if they go after someone, why can't you just assassinate that one guy or blow up his car? I'm not advocating these things, but you go after him when he's in a house where so many other people are living and you wind up killing 20, 25 additional people. The world is going mad.
Well, I have to say that the one thing that's happened as a result of this conflict, and I'm not a big supporter of Hamas. I've been a big critic of Hamas. They've always blocked the peace accords. But Israel, I got to say, I'm not against Israel either. What I am against, and I think you're against, is the government of Israel has done a horrible job. They're taking advantage of this to destroy everything. They've destroyed homes, they've destroyed civilians. They don't care whether they kill women or children. So many women and children. And I don't blame Israel as a country, I blame Israel's government. And what's happening is there is a major change in this country towards Israel's government that people are opening their eyes saying, wait a minute, you just don't kill kids. You find a way. If there's a terrorist, you, I, Israel supposedly has the greatest security system ever. You mean to tell me they can't find a way to get the terrorist by himself? It's almost as if they don't care. And they not only want to get the terrorist, but they want to get the civilians around him as a form of punishment because you guys criticize us as a, Israeli
Well,
government.
I think they're trying to terrorize the population to be very submissive and to just roll over.
And it
I
doesn't,
think
and it
that's a
doesn't
terrible
work.
position to take. I was going to say something, but I'm not going to say it because all it would do would add to the conflict. But I wanted to get that off my chest because I really felt that, I had said I didn't want to talk about it, but I didn't realize what the circumstances were. And it really upset me very much what Israel had done, what the Bibi Netanyahu government had done. I'll phrase it that way.
Yeah, and what Netanyahu is doing, because he sees that many Americans are really shocked at what he's doing, he's using his allies to buy up social media to shut down. For example, Ellison has bought TikTok, and he's one of the big pro-Israel billionaires. He bought up TikTok, and right away he shut down thousands and thousands of Arab accounts on TikTok where they were posting actual videos of Israelis shooting women and children. They've taken all those down. They're removing them. But there is a new place. It's called Upscrolled, which I go to. I don't use TikTok anymore. And there is a war going on to control the information. It wasn't enough to control the news media, to influence, not control, but to influence the media, to bully the media, to be pro-Israel government. That wasn't enough anymore. The media is very silent on a lot of this. You don't see any headlines on Gaza anymore, do you?
No, you don't.
But also at the same time, we don't see many headlines on Ukraine either.
No, we
So
don't.
there are movements to silence these things that really need to be changed. The media needs to do a better job. Social media should be open and independent. There should be a discussion. But I'm going to Upscrolled. Upscrolled is the new place, the new TikTok. And I posted there and I got more and more followers there that are following me. All right, just final section. We were going to talk a little bit about the tensions with Iran. I'm worried about that. The Iranians now have found support in the Arab world enough to push back on Trump. Because Trump was saying that if they don't do what I want, we'll just bomb them to oblivion and get rid of Iran, which, that rhetoric is really disturbing. The Iranians are extremists, the Ayatollahs. I totally agree. They're nuts. They're far extreme. They're brutal. But we forget the history. When we put the Shah of Iran in power, he massacred almost 1 million Iranian dissidents. He killed them. He put them in prisons. He killed them. Nobody did anything. And when the Iranians finally rose up, instead of standing with them, we defended the Shah. President Carter took the Shah in, brought him to the West, protected him. The Shah ended up dying. And we Americans are the ones paying the price in the hatred from Iran. So we're in this situation that was really messed up. And really, most Americans don't even understand what the reality is. There was a Democrat elected in 1950 through democratic elections, and the CIA and the British took him out because they didn't like the fact that he questioned, why are all these foreign oil companies taking the oil from our country? And and it's something that I think sadly doesn't get addressed enough in this country.
Well, let me ask you a question. We have all this military hardware lined up to apparently invade the Persian country over there.
Right.
And are we going to occupy that country? That country is enormous. I don't think we can occupy it. I think it'll take every single individual we have in the military. And we take out the president of Venezuela, put his vice president in charge. How much difference have that made, really, for the citizens of Venezuela or for what we're doing internationally? I see very little. I mean, we still board, the oil tankers and take the oil. We still blow up some that are allegedly bringing drugs into this country. But that we were doing that before. I mean, I just do not see what the end game is in many of these things that we are doing. And I just hope and pray we don't get ourselves involved in a war in the Middle East because of what we think we want to do with Iran.
The only thing we did in Venezuela was to shut up a guy who kept criticizing Trump. Nothing's changed in Venezuela. We we risked our soldiers to go there because that Maduro was calling Trump names and Trump didn't like it. And he took the guy out, and now we've moved on. Nothing's going to happen in Venezuela. The people in Venezuela don't want us to take over the. We're making enemies. If anything, we're turning Venezuela into an anti-American country. Why and why? And the policy isn't smart enough to say, hey, how do we get the Venezuelans to support us? Well, you just don't take their guy out and then walk away from them and say, hey, deal with the confusion and the
But
economic collapse.
that's pretty much what we did, isn't it?
Yes, it is. That's exactly what we did. And that's Trump's style. He's not doing anything that's positive. He goes from one whack-a-mole. He sees something, he hits it, then he moves on to the next thing. He doesn't complete anything. That's a real danger for our country. But I think the real problem is people don't have faith in the Democrats to do any better. We don't have a really good Democratic leader to stand up and do the right thing. They're both on the same side. Well, we
What I thought, well, at least what we could have done was given Caracas a franchise in either the American League or the National League. Maybe that would have helped the situation. So a lot of good ball players come out of Venezuela. A lot of them played for the Chicago White Sox. In fact, for about 40 years, the shortstop that the White Sox had, they were all from Venezuela and they were all very good players. I'm being facetious, but you know, I don't know what positive we have done for that country, other than get rid of a tyrant who hopefully the vice president will not be as bad.
All right. Well, we just have a minute or two left, and I just wanted to bring up this issue in the southwest suburbs of Chicago at District 230. A trustee there who happens to be Arab American asked the district, has been asking for the last 3 years to offer the Arabic language to students, not just Arab students, but to all students, arguing that Arabic is a critical language to learn today, given everything that's happened, in the world and the growth of the economic and business opportunities that now are based in the Middle East. And when he did that, he introduced a motion saying, hey, we've been talking about this 5 times now over the last 6 months. I introduced it 3 years ago. I want a motion. So the president of the school board allowed him to introduce the motion, but wouldn't allow him to describe the motion, which is a violation of Robert's Rules of Order. And nobody would second it, so it died. And it's in limbo as to whether they're going to vote on or have or add Arabic. It takes years to get these things started. So whatever they're doing now, it's going to take at least 2 years before you can even get the program started. You got to find teachers. But that's the big controversy that's taking place. And if people want to read about it, they can go to my website at courageousthought.com and they will see an overview of everything that happened there. Bill, I think any final thoughts, Bill, because we are almost out of time here.
Ray, I'll let it go. I think it's a very bad situation that you just talked about. I hope it can be resolved. I think it'd be wonderful. The more languages American citizens can learn, the better off we are all going to be.
And by the way, I think they should teach Polish. I think they should teach Mandarin. It doesn't mean I love the Chinese or that I'm pro-Chinese. They should even teach Russian, but we need to be able to communicate in these other languages if we're going to succeed and have a major role to play in the world.
You're
All
right.
right. I'm Ray Hanania.
I'm Bill Lipinski, and this has been Two Guys on Politics.
We'll talk to you next week. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Bye bye.